Hi everyone, I'm Phil from Phil's Train Layout. So I've been starting to paint. So what I've been doing is I've taken all the 3D prints that I've been doing for all the buildings, and I am starting to airbrush everything. So at the moment, see if I can get some good light on this so that you can see it well. See if I can turn that on. There we go. So, so what I've done is I've done two different colors on this. I've done a light brown, and then I've taken a little bit of a darker brown and sprayed over top of it, and then took a Q-tip and dipped it in just to make little darker highlights that you've seen around. Then what I'll do is I'll just go around like the doors, stuff like that, and I'll highlight those a little bit more just so that they stand out a little bit, but I don't want them to stand out too much. So maybe I'll just do the door frame in a darker color, maybe a dark brown or something like along that line. So I don't know, I think it kind of turned out fairly well. This is my first attempt at using my airbrush, and I think it turned out fairly well. It's not an expensive airbrush by any means. It is actually a really cheap one, which is this one right here. As you can see, it says airbrush. So it is not a name brand. It is just a generic cheap airbrush. I do have a really nice one here, Neo Iwata. I believe I said that right. But the only problem I was having is I don't have the right adapter for this to screw that airline onto. This is a really nice one. I was really hoping to use this one. It's gravity fed, of course. It has dual action. There's your air for just blowing air, and then of course open up your nozzle for spraying your paint or fluid or whatever you happen to be spraying at that moment. So I was really hoping to use this one. I was very disappointed when I finally discovered that, oh man, I don't have that little adapter piece. So that kind of sucked. And I'm not sure if this screws off or not to get to the smaller one. I kind of think it does. You know what? I'm going to unscrew that and see what happens. I'll be right back. Nope. I unscrewed it, and it's actually an air check valve in there for when you're pushing and to get the air to come out. That's what that is. It's an air check valve in there, and it's totally not what I thought it was. So I'm gonna have to look around. I've tried looking in the instruction box, and I didn't see anything in there about adapter pieces. So I'm gonna have to figure this out somehow. Maybe if any of you know anything about airbrushes and you know what adapter to get for this, I would really be appreciated if you'd leave me a comment below or just message me, and that way I can get to use this really nice one. So enough about that. back to painting. So what I'm going to do with these is I do have a couple of like antique white, or maybe I'll just use the light tan. And what I'll do is I'll just do a wash, and you know, just use a paintbrush. I'll just do a wash on these to mimic the grout line, and that way, you know, it'll blend in, and then I'll just dab it off with a paper towel, and then that'll get like the salt lines and whatever else. Like I'm from Canada, so there's a lot of snow and salt that comes out of everything, and everything looks kind of drain washed. So that's that one. So the original of the way that looked was this here. So that is the way it looked originally in there. So what I'll probably do is with acrylic paints, I'll probably just paint the front of the stores. Whoops, I'm like destroying everything. I'm like King Kong destroying everything. So yeah, so what I'll probably do with the acrylic paint is, you know, I'll just highlight the edge where the signs all are gonna go, just to make that kind of pop out. Looks like an attached sign. You know, I'll paint the door frames and everything so that they stand out, and then do a little bit of a weathering wash on them. So like everything's getting closer to being able to set down on the layout. You know, I'm kind of happy with the way this turned out. It's actually, for my first real attempt at using an airbrush, you know, I had to fiddle around with the paint a little bit to get it to flow through, but once I kind of figured it out, it wasn't so bad. So I used a couple of different tones on these, just to kind of give you know, not the same plain old look all the way through the town. And again, I'll do a light tan wash on this, just to do all the grout lines and everything, which will hide that little bit of gray that's showing up in between there. And for these door frames, I don't really like the way that turned out. Kind of looks kind of too old, so I may just use a silver or something on there to mimic the steel window frames or aluminum window frames, and do that. And then I'll just weather them a little bit, probably with light powder or something like that. And I'll do the same with each of the storefronts, you know, or I'll just end up painting these each different colors, you know, like one red, or maybe a green or something like that, you know, like the way different storefronts are and whatnot. So this one here was kind of extra weird. It was almost like it didn't want to take the paint, or else I just made that little batch of paint a little bit too runny, like a little too watered down, because it just didn't want to spray at all. So what I might do is I'll wash this one again with a tan, or maybe a light brown, just to get the grout lines, and then I'll go over it and dry brush it, just to make the brick stand out a little bit more with another brown, just to make that stand out. But yeah, so just thought I'd give you a quick little update about how things are going, and everything's kind of starting to turn out fairly well. So my idea with these, because these were my very first attempt at doing some buildings. So what I might do is I'll just put these together as different storefronts, and that way I don't have to worry about so much the sides, and you know, I can hide the back a little bit, or maybe I'll just glue on one of the sheets of brick. I'll just glue it onto the back, and then I'll just weather and paint it. But for the sides of one, I was thinking like you see in, you know, different towns, whenever you see the great big the great big mural that's on there. So maybe I'll go to my hometown of Pembroke, Petawawa, and I'll find one of their murals on there, and I'll just kind of glue that onto the side like a big painted mural on the side of the buildings, and we'll go at it that way. And you know, I think that'll kind of make that kind of stand out, and I'll use that for the, like, the side of a parking lot. Maybe I'll put this one with the parking lot in the middle, and you'll see a great big mural on that side, and then a big mural on that side there. So these are all the little ideas that I'm throwing around as I'm starting to paint these things. So I'm going to mix up a little batch of paint, and I'm going to do a wash on a couple of these other buildings, and then I will come back and show you what it looks like. Hopefully it turns out well. We'll see what happens. I'll talk to you soon. So I'm just doing a little bit of a wet wash with a light tan mixed with a little bit of brown, just to try to highlight some of those areas between the grout lines. So, yeah, I don't think that looks too bad. That actually turned out a little bit better than I had thought it would. So yeah, and then grab a Kleenex, kind of just dab the top off just a little bit, and there, got some highlights in there, and actually turned out. Oops, I just turned the light off. Sorry. So yeah, that's turned out pretty good. Hopefully it dries that way. So let's try this one here. So go with a little bit darker of a wash on this one. Most people just kind of do a dry wash, but because I need to fill in some of the voids in between that never got hit by the airbrush. Just gonna hit all these areas here. Try to make sure I've got no blank gray spots still on the building. But yeah, I think this is going to turn out really well. Let's make sure I get into all these little spots in here. If I put on a little bit too much, it's not a big deal because I can wash and wipe off some of the excess with a tissue or I wonder what would happen if I hit that. Yeah, I'm kind of over. Yeah, I don't like that. So just come in here. Just kind of dab that tissue. I don't know. I think that looks. I think that looks pretty good. Maybe once that dries, I'll go over it again with maybe a lighter of a wash, just to make sure I highlight all the grout lines a little bit more. So that's that so far. So let's try this big guy. Let's try an inconspicuous spot. Maybe right back here. Oh yeah. I think that looks good. All those little spots that I had hit with the Q-tip and darkened it up a little bit. I think that might turn out really, really nice. Okay, so this is basically just a wet wash, letting it run down, get in between all the lines, between all the bricks. You know, I can easily go over this again at any time later on if I wanted to darken it up a little bit. Yeah, I think that already looks really nice. So it's taking it from a flat, bland looking and giving it just a little bit of extra texture, and I'll hit the back of that as well. Doesn't matter inside the building because I'm going to be painting all the walls anyway. So I'll hit these little areas here. Oops. Don't want it running down there. Then of course anything that you don't want there, you just kind of get in there and just soak up the extra little bit. I think this is going to turn out really nice. Hi everyone, I'm back. So it's been a couple days and I've come to realize that when I was doing the video on this, my recording actually shut off and I didn't realize that it shut off. So I think I should probably take you through what I did after the fact, where the video actually shut off. So I believe I put on the base coat of everything, of the brown, and then what I have done after that is I took a tan and did a wet wash. This is all just your cheap craft paint from the dollar store and whatever. So, but it actually sprays and it actually looks fairly nice when it's all applied. But so what I've done is I did a wet wash of the tan, just to get in between all the brick, just to do the grout lines and everything. I let that dry, and then I came back and took some cinnamon brown, which is probably a weird color to use for this, but that's what I did. And I just put a little bit in a tray and just dry brushed over top of the brick, just to highlight the actual brick itself again, to bring it out, because you know when you do a wet wash it kind of gets all over everything, and I think it actually turned out really well. I like it, and you know, I'm actually impressed at how well it turned out, considering this is one of my first attempts at doing some detailing, and my first time at weathering some buildings. And these are also the first buildings that I had ever 3D printed. So, so that's the one building. So I'll set that one aside. These ones here, I had also done the exact same process. Did the wet wash and then went over top of it with the darker, and just did, you know, just lightly over top, just to highlight the brick again, you know, and made it look weathered. That was that one. And then I also did this one here, and of course I did a little bit of painting around the doors, and same thing with this one here, and I think they look great. You know, for my first attempt, I think they really look good, and I think they're gonna really pop when I get the buildings all put together and put them in the town. So that's everything for now. I'm gonna continue on here. I'm gonna do another store. So I'm gonna do another one of these that I had put together. This is just a little shopping plaza. I'm gonna paint this one up, probably exactly the same as this other one, because they're gonna go together in a little section on the layout. So I'd like to have them both looking similar. So I'll continue on with that, and I'll come back when I get the first coating on, and I'll show you what I've done. Hi everyone, I'm back. So I walked away for a couple hours, came back, and it was actually pretty good, pretty dry. So I just sprayed everything again, put a secondary coat on, and and they're all turning out really good. Uh, this is actually not a horrible airbrush. I don't really have a whole lot of experience with them, but I think it's spraying really nice. It's way faster than painting everything by hand, which is the way I was doing everything before. You still got to go through and do some finer detail and everything else, but I'm totally okay with that. This would have taken me like hours and hours to do this before. So, um, so what I'm doing now is I'm just mixing up a little bit of black because I'm going to paint the roof sections of some of these mini plazas. That is these pieces right here, and they fit right in there like that. It's a roof. So I'm just gonna clean up the edges of of this one, and then I'm just gonna give this coat of black because it's basically it's a flat roof. It's gonna be a tar roof, and I'll probably sprinkle a little bit of fine dirt on it, you know, because there's always a layer of stone on some flat roofs. So that's what I'm going to do with these. So I'm going to let these other ones dry up a little bit. I'll probably set them aside just because I want to continue painting here in my makeshift paint booth. Yes, I just made it out of cardboard and put a little piece of foam at the back just as a spray catch, but you know it does with the job for now. You know, maybe I'll give you a quick little view of it. Yeah, it's nothing special. It's basically just a cardboard box. So I'm going to get these two pieces painted, and then I'll show you what it looks like when I'm done. So I'm back. So I've put a couple little flash coats on there. What this paint needs to do is you do need to dry it in between coats. Because if you get a little bit too much on, a little bit too fast, it's just going to run. And then you have a big puddle, and then it looks streaky, and then it looks horrible. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to, I put a couple quick flash coats on, which is just a really light spray coat. I stayed a little bit back just so I didn't get any runs in it like I did right there. But I'll be able to blend that in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to let this dry a little bit, and then I'm going to come back probably about half an hour, and then I'll give it a couple more coats, and probably by that time the other coats of the buildings will be done, and I might be able to start doing a little bit of wash in those, or I just might leave them overnight. I'll just put a couple more coats of the black on here, and then I'll leave it overnight. Then I'll do some of the dry washing and wet wash tomorrow. So for right now, I'm just going to let that cure, let that dry down a little bit, let it tack up, and see, I got that one little run right there. I'm just going to try to catch that before it runs all over the place. It makes a great big streak down there. And then I'll be able to blend that back in afterwards. Hi everyone, I'm back. So everything's all dry now. So I am going to just start doing some wash on these buildings here, just to see how this is going to turn out. I'm pretty sure it's going to turn out nice, but you never know. So this is a little bit more awkward just because this these buildings here, they have way tighter of brickwork in it, so I may have to dab these ones a little bit. This might turn into a little bit of a mess. So I'm hoping all this is going to turn out well, but we'll see. Yeah, this is going to make a big mess. Oh well, just well, we'll have to see how this turns out once I'm done, and it all dries up and everything. Sometimes it's hard to tell how something is going to look while it's wet. Let's go back and give these ones here a quick go over. That's the first wash on that one, and I'll do the first wash on this one. wiping up some of the excess water along the bottom edge, just so it doesn't soak in too much in my paint booth box, wannabe paint booth. This is the one that I had been working on. I showed you this one already. I've got the roof sitting in place now. Everything's weathered. I've got all the wet wash done. I have the dry brushing has been done. Now I just need to do just a little bit of fine detail. I might go over it again with another dry brushing, but I have all the glazing and I have the name of the businesses that are going to be going in here, and all I have to do is just I'll probably just paint this all silver or gray for each of the actual storefronts with the windows and whatever. So that's where everything is sitting at the moment. Hey everyone, I'm back. So everything that I've done, I did all a light tan, I believe. I used as the light wash. So I did the wet wash just to get in and do all the grout lines, and which weathered down the building a little bit. So everything has turned out pretty good. I like it. It's toned down, and it weathered it all, so it actually makes it look like there's grout lines in there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go through each of these, and I am going to use a burnt umber as a dry brush. So I'll just put a little bit in there, and I have a thicker brush. You don't need a whole lot on there to do the wet wash. So I'll dab it in the paint, and I'll take most of it off. That way I can just brush over top, and I just want to catch the top of the brick. So what I want here is I do want most of the brick to be a little darker. So I just want to make sure that I just go over top. I want to leave the grout underneath, so I'll just go over top of everything, and I'll just dry brush it until I get the tone of the brick that I want. You don't need a whole lot on your brush to do this. Just keep brushing and until the brick gets a little bit darker. And you don't want to press hard on there, because you don't want the paint to sink back into your grout lines where you just did all of your wet wash. So, and then that will highlight all the bricks. You don't want to make the bricks solid, because if you do look at pictures of brick, they are not solid one color. So if you dry brush them with this just a little bit, you catch most of the highlights of all the brick, and it still leaves a bit of the undercolor exposed. Yep, just like that. And it just brings out that brick and leaves the grout lines exposed. You still see a little bit of the color through the brick underneath that, and just makes everything look good. So that's what I'm going to do for the rest of these 3 models. I don't want to bore you to death watching me dry brush all of this, but that's the exact same process that I am going to do with this whole building, this building, and that wall. And then I will come back and I'll show you what it looks like. Hey everybody, I'm back. So I've got everything pretty much complete. I did a little bit extra. I did a little bit of trim work and whatever else, but so there is the building at the moment. I'm hoping that you can see it well. Maybe I can move it over here a little bit. So there is the one main building. A little bit of a bad yellow lighting, but it got all the layers on there. I did the dry brushing on the brick. I did a little touch up on the windowsills and the door frames just to clean it up just a little bit more. But in all, I think it turned out remarkably well. So this is going to be the building for the arcade, now that I have it all finished and painted. This is the one building for of course the mini plaza. So I have all the brickwork done. I did a little bit on the door frames. I have the roof piece in place, and I'll just show you the detail on the brick and the weathering, and a little bit on the doorknobs and the door frames. So that all turned out really well. Looks pretty realistic. Well, to me anyway, but there's a little bit of weathering I did on the one building. I don't have the other walls finished yet. I haven't even printed them off yet, but I totally forgot when I painted that whoops, that's the front of that building. So that'll be for another paint day. Try to get caught up on some of these paints. So while I was at it, I went back over this one here a little bit, did some of the frame, and just highlighted just a little bit more on this one, and this one here I made it just a little bit darker. I used the same color as that brown there, the burnt umber, and just brushed it over just a little bit more, just to make this one a little bit darker than these two. And this one is kind of in the middle, so these will be the 3. So this one's a little darker, or lighter I mean, and then it goes darker and darkest. So just try to keep everything just a little different. You don't want the entire town to look the same. So the town is coming along. I'm getting a little tired, so I was going to do the a little bit more highlighting on this one here, but I am going to save that for another day. I'll finish this one off later on. So I hope you like everything that I've been doing so far. I hope some of the techniques that I've been learning while doing all of this, I'm hoping for some of you that are not as skilled or have as much knowledge, or are just starting out in trains. I hope this is helpful to you, just like other people have been helpful to me while I was learning some of these techniques and practicing them myself. Please hit that subscribe button at the bottom, hit that little bell icon. I do try to put out videos every week. I try to mix up the information a little bit and do a little bit here and there, and trying some new techniques that I've been learning. So stay safe, everybody. Take care.